My name is Zara, and I have a condition called interstitial cystitis. Sometimes it's just called IC, or sometimes people call it painful bladder syndrome. I've had this condition all my life, really. I started out with bladder control issues as a child, and bedwetting, and just could not hold my bladder. The doctors thought I was lazy, and by rights, then so did my parents, on the doctor's advice. I wet the bed frequently. If I drank something, I needed to be in the toilet seconds, maybe a minute after. At one point, it was so bad that my dad actually thought I was making myself ill, because every time I drank something, I'd run straight to the toilet. So I'd get up during a meal 2 or 3 times to go to the toilet. So he was quite concerned at that. I am 31 years old. I didn't get diagnosed until I was maybe 23. But I never actually got a very good diagnosis. I found out I had interstitial cystitis, but nobody ever actually sat me down and explained to me what it was or how it would affect me. So everything I know about it, I have learnt myself. I've Googled the hell out of everything. I pee sometimes 60 times a day. I can pee every 10 minutes, every 20 minutes. On good days, I'll pee every hour. But I also get a lot of pain. I'm in chronic pain all the time. I have flare-ups, so sometimes it's a lot worse. And then other times it's a manageable pain. But as time's gone on, I have learnt to handle my pain better. And so what would have floored me and sent me bedridden a few years back now is a daily walk in the park to me. There are times I'm completely bedridden because you don't realise how much your body pulls on your bladder until you try and use it. You think of it, obviously it's in your core, and so you lift your arms and it pulls, you lift your legs and it pulls, you straighten your legs and it pulls. Over the years, my bladder has become so damaged that it now has quite severe fibrosis, which is basically a medical way of saying scarring, where my bladder has tried to fill and hasn't actually managed it. So it's just started to pull and tear instead. And now every time it does that, obviously it leaves a little bit more scarring, more cuts, which urine is like pouring lemon into a fresh cut. It's like acid. But then it's also now grown muscle around it, trabeculation. Apparently it looks like a bird's nest. It's pretty grim. It's not very pretty. Not that it matters because you don't see it. But my bladder has now grown such severe trabeculation around it that my bladder now doesn't expand. I've had probably 14 years of pain now. The pain didn't start until I was about 18. And I just noticed it in silly things like sitting in a car. I'd have to sit. I have to sit to the side. It hurts to sit upright with my bum and my legs flat. It started like that, and then it'd get worse around my period. Interstitial cystitis has no known cure or known cause. It presents with symptoms of urine infections without a cause. I've never had a urine infection in my life. I'm 31, I've never had one, but I get the symptoms all the time, and every time I go to the doctors, oh, we'll do urine infection, we'll do a urine test, and I tell them each time, it's pointless, I don't have one, and they do it, there's nothing there, so they send it off, there's still nothing there, and so they can't treat it. There are lots of different medications and ways to treat interstitial cystitis, and I have been going through them, as I said, for 14 years. I've had nearly every medication you can think of, so much so that I'm now medication sensitive, which means that all those horrible side effects you get with tablets, yeah, I get them. So I get sick and I get dizzy and I just very, very sick. There's a food list, and it's massive pages and pages of foods that will cause a flare-up. Mainly anything acidic, so tomatoes, oranges, orange juice, God, I miss it. Spicy foods, tea, coffee, caffeinated things, basically all the things that you want to eat. Those can cause flare-ups. Some people have a lot of luck with trying out the food list and cutting out these foods, eliminating them and seeing if that helps. Unfortunately, I've not been able to find a trigger. I know that stress is a trigger, and sometimes that can set me off. I've had medications put directly into my bladder, so lidocaine and things like that. It's one of my cats being an idiot. Can you hear her? So they've put those directly into my bladder, and I've had to try and hold it for an hour. Peeing that out is like razor blades. It's not fun. I've had multiple hydrodistensions. Now what that is they put you under general anaesthetic. They put a thin tube into your urethra, up into your bladder, and they fill it. And when it gets full, they fill it a bit more. Basically, they call it a bladder stretch, and they try and stretch your bladder out to help and see if that makes any difference. And the first few, fantastic. I could not fault them. I had no icy symptoms, or very low icy symptoms for the first one was about a year, and then slowly it got a bit less and a bit less until I had one and I woke up and I was in so much pain. I could barely stand up. They sent me home, went back to the hospital, and that lasted for about 3 months of just absolute agonizing pain. They told me that they couldn't do hydrodistensions again because my bladder was so scarred that trying to do them was just going to make it worse and it wasn't going to help. I moved back to my hometown because my mum wasn't very well, and I had to go through the whole process all over again. Went back to a different urologist and they told me they had to do a hydrodistension. I told them why they couldn't, but they decided they had to do it anyway. I agreed because I just needed treatment. I needed something to help. By that point, my life had changed so dramatically. I used to be quite an active person. I used to do pole fitness. I'm trying again now. I used to go 5 times a week and I loved it. And I walked an hour to work every day, and then I'd walk home and then walk an hour in the opposite direction to get to pole class, do pole, walk home. I did that 5 times a week, and it was the best thing I've ever done. And then I'd have my bad days, my bad weeks, and I wouldn't be able to function. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. I couldn't feed myself because I couldn't get into the kitchen to cook. I couldn't shower. I couldn't clean. And I live on my own as well. Me and my Muppet cats. But then I have to care for them as well. And I found it really difficult because IC is a very isolating disease, condition, whatever you want to call it. You find yourself alone a lot of the time, and you find that your personality slowly disappears, and you become somebody else. You become somebody who you don't recognise. I'm not a very active person anymore. I'm lucky if I can get down to the shops. I still work, which has been insanely hard. I'm extremely surprised I have not been fired from any of my jobs, because I am one of the most unreliable people. And it can't be helped. There's nothing I can do about it. I used to be really reliable, and I used to always work overtime, and I was the first one like, yeah, I'll do it. Extra money, obviously. And now I struggle with the small hours I have. I've cut down to 4 days a week, and I struggle with that. It's got to the point with me now that I am having my bladder removed. This is happening on the 24th of August. Keep me in your thoughts, I'm terrified. I'm having what is called a supratrigonal cystectomy with neobladder and metrophenol. What that basically means is they are going to take out the majority of my bladder, take out part of my bowel. They're going to make me a new bladder out of my bowel. They're going to keep the trigone area of my bladder, the bit that attaches to your ureters. Yeah, go me. And they're going to build me a new bladder around that. The metrophenol, they're going to use, excuse me, they're going to use a small part of my bladder to make a tube that will go from the new bladder through my belly button. And I'll pee through my belly button. I'll pee standing up. I won't actually pee. I will catheterize through my belly button through a tiny hole called a stoma. I will do that multiple times a day. At first, I will be doing it every hour through the day and the night. I will be in hospital for 2 weeks. I will come out. I will have a leg bag during that time. So my urine will drain directly into a bag attached to my leg. Then, after 6 weeks, I will go back in and they will teach me how to empty my neobladder, how to catheterize through the metrophenol. Then I will come out and I will do that every hour, and then gradually increase the time between changes to try and stretch this new bladder. I'm hoping with all of my heart that this manages to make the IC go away, but there is still a chance that I will have pain after, whether that is phantom pain or whether it's still IC. I won't know. I wasn't a suitable candidate for Botox because I can't catheterize through my urethra, and there is a high chance that having Botox, that it could paralyze your bladder and you would have to catheterize. But the problem with that is having a catheter automatically sets me into a flare, which leaves me bedridden. I also wasn't a good candidate for, they do something called a sacral nerve stimulation. And what that is basically, it's a little pacemaker for your bladder. And they put it in, like, near your butt. But again, I wasn't a suitable candidate for that because I want to live my life after, and the leads in the SNS are very fragile and they break very easily. So you're not supposed to go horse riding or do any kind of extreme sports or dive under a certain amount of meters, and it might seem extreme, but I figure if I'm going to have my life, then I'd like to live it. I want to go horse riding, and I want to jump off of cliffs, and I want to go snowboarding, and I want to climb mountains. None of which I could do with the SNS. At least with the cystectomy, I can do those things. I can go back to my life and I can do those things. I went snowboarding in Poland. I rode a horse across a beach in Bali. I climbed a very small mountain in Poland. I did a skydive about 2 weeks ago to raise money for Bladder Health UK. I've done a lot with my life, and I'm not ready to stop doing that. So basically, I've done this video just to let people know what it's really like, and hopefully I'll be able to update you and tell you that I've had my bladder removed and everything's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, this isn't something that I've taken lightly. I didn't just wake up one day and go, oh, you know what, let's get rid of my bladder. I would love to be able to keep it. I would love to be able to pee like a normal person. But I need to live too. I feel very alone a lot of the time, mainly because I spend a lot of time on my own. And I'm not very good at letting people know when I need help, because I learned a long time ago that people aren't very reliable, and that if you want something doing, you do it yourself. I've always been really independent. But right now I really need everybody's thoughts and everybody's wishes, because I'm scared. I'm having a really big operation, and there's a chance it's not going to work. And then there's also the fear of, who am I without IC? It's been a part of me for such a long time, and it's defined so much about me. Where I go, what I do, if I can. I've been ill for such a long time. I don't know who I am when I'm not ill. A friend said to me a couple of days ago that, look at all you've accomplished, look at everything you've done so far, and you've been sick through all of it. Imagine what you're going to do when you're not sick. And that was the most inspiring thing I could think of, because it really made me think. I've done all of these things when I've been so ill for such a long time. What am I going to be like when I'm not? I climbed a mountain before. Maybe afterwards I'll move them. Thank you, and I'll keep